Today's top story from the perspective of someone who's there.
You are looking live.
This just in.
Not my beat.
To Richmond we go, host of MP on the mic, 10 a.m. to noon on 910 The Fan, and of course the free Odyssey app. Miguel, oh God, I've got 78 mice over here. Anthony, can you pull Michael up for me? Michael, they gave me too many buttons. That was bound to fail.
About two is too much for me. I'm easy button. Just give me a button. I'll bang it all day. I get that. You introduce the second button, that's where things start to go wrong.
I have in front of me right now, I have, let's see, 1, 2, the Stream Deck I'll count as another one, 3, 4, 5 mice to control various computers, gadgets, and gizmos. That's what I'm dealing with over here. I need whatever the play calling equivalent of running the football is.
They'd send you a telegraph or something. I'll just start your dot matrix printer over there. I'll start spitting something out.
Sure, whatever the hell those are. Michael Phillips is with us here on the Hoffman Show.
You young people.
Young
people. Come on.
You old people and your technology. What are you, 3 years older than me? We don't need to discuss this now. So, big 30,000-foot takeaway from yesterday. I have come down to earth after watching the game back, where I do think it's a bit of the score is both indicative of some very important things that happened, but also overall perhaps worse than they actually played down in, down out. Where do you sit 24 hours after this beatdown ended?
Yeah, I think that I'm not so intrigued by what happened yesterday as I am by what happens next, because I think it was always going to be silly to think that Sam Howell was going to make it through an entire NFL season without getting exposed in this way, right? It was always going to happen. You would have hoped it would have lasted longer. You would have hoped it wouldn't have been this thorough, so to speak. But I agree, they were in the red zone early. I thought the defense made some plays and, was on the verge of making some plays. We can talk about the defensive line later. I just think to win a game against a really good team, your really good players have to shine, and I'm not sure that happened yesterday. But the focus is Sam Howell, and the focus is, look, he got punched in the mouth. What happens next? Is this a guy who can adapt when an NFL defense shows they know how to beat him, or is this going to be a theme now every single week? The defensive coordinator is going to turn on this Bills tape, turn it on for his team, and say, there you go, boys, that's how you do it.
Right. So we know that, we know there's going to be games like this along the way. Maybe we didn't think it would be this bad. The Bills take advantage of some opportunities. The stats wind up being pretty horrendous with the 4 picks. But I guess the question that I'm trying to work through in my head, that Ron and them are certainly working through as well, that fans are working through, is how long is I don't want to say the leash, but how long is the runway until the plane takes off? How long is it until you look back and you go, all right, hey, we're here, we're somewhere? Because at the end of the day, if he has a couple more stinkers even this year, but by next year he's playing really good football week in and week out, that's a pretty fast runway for a guy to 2 years in, 3 years total, 2 years of starting, to be playing good ball. We're 3 games into him being QB1. But what does the timeline look like where it's an acceptable timeline for the organization?
Let's not forget we're on the Eric Bieniemy runway too, and I think that he showed yesterday some things that will need to be cleaned up as well. So I think that will be a fascinating one to watch as well. A guy who's never had this level of authority inside a building. It's up to him to clean up some stuff this week too. I think his runway is shorter than Sam Howell's, and deservedly so. He's been in the league for a really long time, and I don't think he's going to need to do any kind of major surgery on what he does. I think he's just going to have to tweak his game plan to adjust for the realities of what he's working with here. With Howell, I'm looking at this schedule. You're always looking at the schedule coming up. It's really unfair that they play the Bears on a Thursday night. We've got we do a lot of betting stuff on our show. Everybody does a lot of betting stuff, obviously. My golden rule: don't touch Thursday night football, right? I don't care how juicy it looks. I don't care how convinced you are one team's going to win. We don't touch Thursday night football. That's the rule. Because Thursday night football is weird. Weird things happen on Thursday nights. And sure enough, you look, they got the Chicago Bears, not this week, but next week. Now, I don't think they're going to clean it up in time for Philly. I think Philly's going to take advantage of them a little bit, but you're hoping to see strides. Normally, I would say, you need to handle the Bears, right? To show you're the kind of team you want to be, the kind of quarterback you want to be, you need to bounce back and handle the Bears, which is why it's kind of tricky that game's on a Thursday night. That makes it tougher to use that as the measuring stick game, to borrow Ron's phrase.
Right. Yeah. And, what are you measuring if they're 6 feet in the ground? Like, are you're measuring yourself against a grave that's already been buried. That's where the Bears are headed. So that's not very fun. But I do think, I think you got to compete this week with the Eagles to feel like you're doing things right. Like, if they go out and get their butts kicked again, at that point, we're having a different conversation about even if you win 8 games, 9 games this year, are you actually building towards something? And that to me, Michael, that opens up another can of worms. They have to be competitive this week.
I don't know if they do. I just think, look, the NFL, there's a few teams that are really, really good and can beat anybody at any time and are legit Super Bowl contenders. The Bills are in that club. They just are. I think the Eagles are in that club. And then there's the teams that are really bad. The Bears are in that club. Arizona's in that club. Carolina, Chicago. And then everybody else is in the middle and could win and could lose depending on what the week is. I just think the Eagles are in a different class than these guys, and I think it's okay to say that and still feel all right about the long term with Sam Howell and give him a chance to grow and develop. I don't think they need to be competitive this week. I would love for them to be competitive. I think it would be nice for the defensive line to get home this week because I go back to, I think your stars need to make big plays in big games. And I don't think the Stars made enough big plays yesterday on the defensive line. Take away the secondary, take away the linebackers, whatever you want to critique back there. I just don't think the Stars made enough plays. I would love to see in a big game against a Super Bowl quarterback, I'd love to see that line get right and make some plays. Sam Howell, though, I don't have that expectation for Sam Howell this week. I just don't. I mean, you're talking about something that really dogged him the entire time he was at North Carolina and was something the coaches noticed all last year. I don't think it's getting fixed in 1 week, but I don't think that means it's unfixable.
So let's circle back around to Bieniemy and the day he had yesterday. Michael Phillips is with us here on the Hoffman Show. I didn't love yesterday from Bieniemy, and this is how that offense gets called. Andy Reid also goes 70-30, but you're not dealing with Mahomes anymore. You need to go back to something closer to your Alex Smith / young Patrick Mahomes playbook before he was Patrick Mahomes, or the way you won a bunch of games with Alex Smith back in the day, which is far more conservative if you think running the ball versus passing it is conservative. I think that the idea that they're doing this for Sam, that this will actually help his development, I actually think that's misguided. Do you agree with me or do you agree with them? When I put it that way, and them includes Eric Bieniemy, I feel very dumb. I just want to admit that up front.
And I'm going to side with Eric Bieniemy over Craig Hoffman a lot of the time because I think he's very smart at football. I didn't have a problem with it.
I was going to say, just to be clear, I don't want to be on the other side of Eric Bieniemy very often at all. If ever, I already regret it.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with it in the opener or in the either the first 2 weeks. I think he's working to establish an identity. I think he's playing a long game by doing that. I do think the time's up on it. That next week, especially against the Eagles, time to mix in some running game. I think he's a little bit calling plays with one hand tied behind his back, too, though, because I think he has one running back right now, and that's Brian Robinson Jr. You can do some things with Curtis Samuel. You can do some things to get guys in space. But let's face it. Let's just call this what it is flat out. Coaching staff doesn't trust Antonio Gibson. You can't convince me otherwise at this point.
I mean, I'm not gonna try to. I don't know that that's necessarily a good thing. Yesterday's fumble is not good by any stretch of the imagination. But I think you just kind of have almost more with Gibson than with Howell in very different scenarios. I think you just have to keep giving it to Gibson, and if he fumbles again, then you're cutting bait. Period. That becomes a different conversation. And whether you just make him your kickoff returner and that's it, or whatever. You might just need to move on because he's already a pending free agent, whatever, anyway. But his upside's too much there. With Howell, you're having a different conversation about play calling and, how much leash you give him and his ability to protect himself. Because I think there was also a decision to be made about, is he seeing ghosts by the end of the game yesterday and should they have pulled him? I think that's at least a fair conversation. I wouldn't have done it, but if someone wants to bring that up, I don't think they're crazy.
It is 100% a fair question to ask if Sam Howell should have been playing the final snaps yesterday. I agree with you. There's not a right or wrong answer there, but it's a fair question to ask. It's, I think that long term, they'll have to be 70-30 to win and to compete at the NFL and to be where they want to be. I think that short term, you might need to take a step back from that ledge this week. You might need to redial it this week. And look, I'm glad they did it the first couple of weeks. I really am, because I think it sets the tone of who Eric Bieniemy is, what he understands about modern football, what he understands about how to win, and what he thinks Sam Howell will eventually be able to do. I didn't mind any of that, and it's hard to find fault with the Denver game. It really is. I know they got in that hole early, but they were down there twice. 2 field goals on the first 3 drives. They just missed one of them because of the snap. It's the time of possession at halftime was entirely slanted towards Washington. I think you're looking at something that didn't work once, as opposed to something that, broadly speaking, hasn't worked 3 times. I think it's more foresight than hindsight. Like, I don't think I would have done it differently, but I think that as we look forward, I would do it differently if I were Eric Bieniemy. I think it's time to make that switch. I don't know that there was a right combination to win yesterday. People were in my Twitter mentions debating kicking the field goal early, which would have been the wrong call. They made the right call, but it's all window dressing. There wasn't a magic formula to win that game. They were going to lose it.
Let me toss you one softball real quick for you to absolutely smash into oblivion, and then we'll flip over to the defense. Michael Phillips, MP on the mic, 10 a.m. to noon, 910 The Fan in Richmond, which you can listen to on the free Odyssey app. On a scale of 1 to whatever you're about to give me, you get to set the number. How much did you hate the shotgun from the 1 third down run play? Ready, go.
A billion, a trillion. Nobody will ever learn. It's unbelievable. It's freaking unbelievable. Look, 1 yard. If you need 1 yard in the NFL, your quarterback should be able to get it for you. Right under center, moving forward a yard. If it's a 4th down, all the more, because you just have to reach, then pull. That's all you have to do. You get the entirety of the forward progress. It is the stupidest thing that everybody in football does all the time.
The thing is, I 95% agree with you. If they spread it out there and get all the players out the way, come up with the world's silliest wide receiver splits to make it 5-on-5 instead of 10-on-11, then fine. But they ran it out of a bunch formation. What are you doing? Yeah,
it was ridiculous. And look, I mean, these people are smart. I've become the Chris Russell of this issue. I get a million texts every time it happens anywhere. And so like the Rooster, I caricature it a bit that, there are fun wrinkles. Look, the Raiders, acted like they were going to do it on 4th and inches last night and then threw a touchdown pass. That's fun. I like that. I'll tip my hat to that. Fine. But look, don't overthink it. If you need 1 yard in professional football, your quarterback should always be able to get it for you, period. End of sentence.
Yeah, and that's one of those, Carolina was about to do it, and then someone goofed and jumped off sides. But, they pulled Bryce Young out of the game and were ready to do it with Andy Dalton on Monday Night Football last week. And it's if you want to put Brissett in there for quarterback sneaks because he's a big honking dude, then fine, do it. But I agree with you. Or just run the ball out of the dot. If you're going to let your running back get it, let him get a full-speed start downhill. I hated that play so much. And then 4th down, they just didn't execute well. It is what it is. Okay. On the defensive side, I think they overall played all right, but I don't think that was a very good Chase Young game. What did you see from 99?
I was in the minority after Denver, and look, my takeaway was after Denver, I'm really glad he played, but he's not at superstar level, and I just feel like it's really obvious this will be his last season here. I'm glad he's playing and those snaps aren't going to somebody else, but I just don't think he's what he needs to be to stay here or stay on a superstar contract. And then you go to this week, fast forward to this week's game, and that's what he is right now. He's a guy who is a pretty good NFL defensive tackle or defensive end, and he can rush the passer and he can do some things, and he's freakishly athletic, but he's not making the most of his gifts, Craig.
Yeah, and the problem is, some of the data tells lies. On pure dropbacks, PFF has him winning 30% of rushes. But my guess is that means on some of the plays where he, quote-unquote, wins and then gets washed up the field or pushed out of the way, and then Josh Allen runs away and has acres of space where Chase Young would otherwise be, that counts as a win for Chase Young, and that's not a win. And, like, it's the same problem they had a couple of years ago, and he had some really good rushes winning last week, doing the right thing. And I just don't know. Like, I know he's a young player. We should have some patience with him in the same way that we have patience with Howell and other young players. But at some point, you're just repeating the same mistake over and over again, and I think it's infuriating.
Yeah, and look, PFF's always going to love Chase Young because PFF grades every player individually. And that's not how Jack Del Rio grades guys out. He grades them against the scheme and against what the team is trying to do. And that's why Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne are so great, because they are amazing and win inside of the broader scheme that helps their teammates succeed as well. I just don't get the sense that Chase Young's success is the team's success in any tangible way. It looks like there's 10 guys playing defense and one guy who's playing Chase Young, and he's really good at it. He's really good at it, Craig. I just, hear me on this. He's an amazing athlete, and that's why we keep giving him more chances to show it. He's just not playing with the other 10, and you see it every week.
Michael Phillips, MP on the mic. Anything else that you had on your show today? Hot topic, burning take that you think is worth chopping up real quick?
Man, we went hard on college football because the University of Virginia and Virginia Tech both stink this year. Those are our two local colleges. Mm-hmm. And the Virginia Tech fans are mad. They're big mad, Craig. They don't have the talent to compete in the ACC. It's been a while since they've been in that spot. I mean, even in the post-Beamer years, which were lean, kids were coming to Blacksburg. Kids ain't coming to Blacksburg anymore, and it's really bleak. They got handled by Rutgers. Rutgers converted 6 third-down conversions a week ago. They lost to Marshall as double-digit dogs this past week. Fans are just mad. They're big mad because they've seen it. We're recent enough with success. It's a little bit like when it started getting bad under Snyder. People are mad. People are worked up. Then you got UVA. UVA lost to NC State on Friday, Craig. They lost because they had 3 personal foul penalties in the last 50 seconds of the game.
That's it's not very good, Michael. That's some analysis right there. You can steal that.
And that's insane. And that's coaching, and their fan base is just apathetic. They know it's over. They've seen enough. They're not calling in. They're not mad. They're just resigned. And that's the worst place you can be, is resignation. We were there a couple of years ago. I think you and I talked about it then with Dan Snyder. You can only sustain the fury for so long before you just walk away. And that's why he's gone, because the numbers showed it. The ratings went down. The money went down. The rest of the league got mad at him for costing them money. The apathy is the worst place you can be as a fan base.
There's a clear, obvious solution for UVA, though. Just hire Chris Long as your coach. Problem solved.
Oh, I'm all in for that. I love that.
Yeah.
There was an obvious solution for Virginia Tech. I'll sidebar us all the way. 2 of the great mistakes in Virginia Tech history. Del Curry is one of your best basketball players of all time. He calls over Seth Greenberg, says, "Hey, I've got a kid. The kid's all right. You want to come look at him?" Seth comes over and looks at the kid, says, "Look, he can be a walk-on if he wants, but we don't have a scholarship, and I don't know." Anyway, the kid was Seth Curry. So, that was a bit of a miss. And then, Steph, Seth, the whole gang. That was Steph Curry that got offered the walk-on spot there.
Right.
Unbelievable.
And then Seth had to start at Liberty and then wound up at Duke.
Yeah.
And then in the NBA. Whoops.
Yeah. Frank Beamer, longtime coach, legend there, has a kid. The kid's pretty good at coaching. Instead, they go outside the family. He's Shane Beamer. He's coaching at South Carolina now in the SEC.
Yeah. Whoopsie daisies. All right. Well, if you want more on that, MP on the mic. Obviously, they'll also be talking plenty of Commanders football.
Yes, we will.
You want to check it out 10 a.m. to noon on the free Odyssey app. If you're driving down through Central Virginia, flip on 910 The Fan. All right, Michael. Thank you, sir. We will talk to you next Monday.
All right, big one. I'm excited for this. Excited to see how they bounce back. I think it'll be a fun conversation.
As am I. I think I will too. And guess what? I found the right mouse to say goodbye. So I'm going to hang up on you now. But it's going to be a hang up in celebration because I found the mouse. All right. 3, 2, 1. Goodbye. And there he goes.
What's up, kiddos? It's your boy Clinton Yates from ESPN. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. Tell your mama I said what's up.